Hi there, Andres here. Welcome back to our quick introduction to Python 3 for AWS Automation Engineers course. This course is completely free and available for you at handson.cloud website. There are a couple of options available for you how you can set up and configure your development environment to move forward with the rest of the course. The first option assumes that you need to install everything we need on your local laptop or workstation. That will require you to configure an IDE itself. It might be Microsoft Visual Studio Code, IntelliJ IDE, PyCharm, or any other IDE of your choice. You will have a need to install Python 3 interpreter, AWS CLI tools, and Boto3 library. And finally, you will need to configure AWS credentials, such as AWS access and secret keys, to have an ability to interact with AWS API endpoints using Python and Boto3 library to manage AWS services in a programmatic way. This setup will be covered in a separate video. The focus of this video is to launch a Cloud9 IDE, which is a preferable way to move forward with the rest of the course. I strongly recommend you to choose a Cloud9 IDE as a preferable environment for the rest of the course, just because Cloud9 IDE provides a better integration with AWS Cloud Platform. Basically allows you to inherit your users' permissions and privileges from your AWS account, which you are using to connect to your AWS console, or it allows you to inherit your instance profile permissions and privileges, which you might assign to your EC2 instance. We will cover those questions a little bit later. And basically, that means that you can interact with AWS services in a programmatic way without having a need to configure AWS credentials, such as AWS access and secret keys, and store them anywhere in the configuration files or in your code, which makes your development process a little bit more secure. In addition to that, for the users who just launched their AWS accounts, you need to know that the Cloud9 IDE is free tier eligible. So you may choose T2 micro instance type during Cloud9 IDE setup, and that means that you will not be paying for Cloud9 IDE for a significant period of time. So before moving forward and launching Cloud9 IDE, we have to review a couple of deployment options of this IDE. So the first option is so-called direct access option. That means that when we will use a Cloud9 IDE service and launch a Cloud9 IDE environment, the service will deploy an EC2 instance in the public subnet of our VPC in the specified region of AWS account. And every single time when we will be opening the Cloud9 IDE in our web browser, our connection gonna be passed through to this EC2 instance. And all the code which you will be writing during the course and executing during the course will be stored and executed on this EC2 instance. In addition to that, this instance will have a direct connectivity to the internet. That means that you will have an ability to download any third-party dependencies and packages, everything basically you need for your development process without any restrictions and limitations. And of course, such setup simplifies your interaction with the AWS publicly available API endpoints, just because the instance itself will use a direct internet connection to interact with those API endpoints. So this is the simplest and most straightforward setup. And that's exactly what we will use when we will be deploying Cloud9 IDE. There are a couple of other options available for us. One of them is to provide access to this EC2 instance using Systems Manager. Basically, the idea here is that you may put your EC2 instance in a private subnet without a direct access to the internet. and provide your developers with an ability to use those EC2 instances and connect to them without an ability to connect to the internet. This setup is a preferable choice for the organizations with the strict security requirements for the cloud operations. And finally, the last deployment option of the Cloud9 IDE is through SSH connection. That assumes that you have to install Cloud9 IDE software on your already existing EC2 instances by yourself manually, and then you have to configure the Cloud9 IDE service connection to the EC2 instance. This option is the preferable choice for the companies who are already having an EC2 instances where they are doing software development and where they are willing to start using Cloud9 IDE as a preferable integrated development environment. So again, those two options are not the primary topic of our deployment for today, and we will move forward with the direct access deployment option. So as for now, it's a good time to launch our Cloud9 IDE. To do that, we have to go to our AWS account. In the search bar on the top, we have to type Cloud9 and choose the Cloud9 IDE service. If you don't have any other development environment deployed, any other development environments deployed in your account, you can hit a create environment button. Then you need to provide your environment name. It might be something like my Python dev environment. You might provide a description for your development environment. It might be a good option to provide a meaningful description, especially when you are using multiple different integrated development environments to work either with different programming languages or developing different application or services. And the next step, we have to configure the actual environment settings. As an environment type, we will choose direct access. As you can see, we have all three different types of them available here. And that's exactly the place where we are making the choice for the deployment and the environment type. Next option is to configure the EC2 instance type. That allows you to define the amount of compute resources for your EC2 instance. We will use T2 micro EC2 instance type, which is free tier eligible. Basically, it will give us 1 GB of memory and 1 vCPU, which will be more than enough to move forward with the rest of the course. Then we have to specify a platform, which is nothing more than an operation system of the EC2 instance. There are several options available for us here. For myself, it doesn't matter which operation system to choose, so I will move forward with the recommended option by Amazon and move forward with Amazon Linux 2. And lastly, we have to configure cost-saving settings. This is the most interesting feature, one of the most interesting features of Cloud9 IDE, which allows you to save, I would say, a decent amount of money, especially when you are using a bigger instance types. So the idea here is that after reaching an idle timeout, for example, 30 minutes, if you are not using your instance for 30 minutes, the AWS Cloud Platform will go ahead and hibernate and stop your EC2 instance to stop the billing cycle for the compute resources. And that's exactly what allows you to save some amount of money, especially when you are starting to pay for the Cloud9 IDE. And finally, if you have several VPCs, you may go ahead and choose advanced network settings and choose a different VPC rather than a default, which is a primary target for our deployment today. So again, you may choose your own VPC if you have it in place. And of course, you may choose a subnet where to deploy the Cloud9 IDE. For my specific case, it doesn't matter, just because I will use the default VPC where all the subnets for myself are public. So I will hit next here. Now we can review the environment settings and hit the create environment button. As you can see, we started to launch the Cloud9 IDE environment. The whole process will take roughly a couple of minutes. I will pause the video here and come back to you as soon as the environment is ready. Okay, welcome back. As you can see, we successfully launched the Cloud9 IDE service. And now you see a couple of tabs open for us, which contains the getting started information about AWS Toolkit, which is an extension for the IDE, which allows you to manage AWS services. We will be covering Cloud9 AWS Toolkit wherever it's needed through the rest of the course. So as for now, I will go ahead and close the quick start guide for AWS Toolkit. So just in case if you're interested what AWS Toolkit is, here's the icon. Feel free to click here and review and explore it. The welcome tab basically contains the getting started links for creating new file, uploading files, or clone the Git repository to the working folder of your Cloud9 IDE. And of course, you can configure the Cloud9 IDE theme settings, editor settings, or keyboard mode. Again, I'd prefer not to change anything here and stay with the default settings for the IDE itself. I will go ahead and close this tab as well. The next thing which we need to do is to create an EC2 Instance Profile for the Cloud9 IDE. For some API calls, AWS temporary credentials, which are assumed by the Cloud9 IDE, are not allowing to make us an API calls for any reason. So to get rid of any potential errors, I strongly suggest us to go ahead and create an admin role with admin permissions for the Cloud9 IDE and assign this role to the EC2 instance of our IDE. To do that, we have to go to the Cloud9 IDE icon and open the go to your dashboard link in a separate tab. Now, we may go ahead and copy my Python dev environment Cloud9 IDE name. We will use it as a part of the IAM role, as a part of the name for the IAM role, which we will go and create right now. So to create a new IAM role, we have to go to the IAM service. To do that, we type in IAM in the search bar at the top and go into the IAM service. Now we need to go to the roles, hit create role button. Here we will choose AWS service EC2, just because we are creating the role for the EC2 service. Then in the permissions step, we have to choose administrator access here. Next, we will click tags. We will not specify any tags for this role for now. Let's click review. Then the role name. As a part of the role name, I would strongly suggest you to use something related to the name of your Python development environment, so you could remember what was the role is all about. Here we will use my Python dev environment, and I will add the Cloud9 IDE, Cloud9 IDE at the end. So now we need to hit create role button and wait for a couple of seconds for AWS to create us this role. Now, as soon as the role has been created, we may go to the EC2 instances. To do that, we have to type EC2 in the search bar on the top. Then we are going to the EC2 service, and here we will see one or many, depending on your AWS account, launched AWS instances. To find your Cloud9 IDE instances, you need to look for AWS Cloud9 as a prefix for EC2 instance name, and then the name itself contains the actual name of your environment. So we are choosing our Cloud9 IDE instance, then we are going to the actions, security, and modify IAM role. In the drop-down list, we have to choose just created IAM role and hit save. Now, as soon as we applied the role to our Cloud9 IDE instance, we have to go to the Cloud9 IDE in general and go to the Cloud9 IDE preferences. Here we are clicking the preferences, and next we have to go to AWS settings, and we need to uncheck AWS manage credentials option here. So such configuration will allow us to use just created and assigned to the EC2 instance profile role. So now we can check that we are actually using the required role. To do that, we have to use AWS CLI and type the command AWS sts get caller identity. This command will show us the actual role which we are using for our EC2 instance. As you can see, we are using my Python dev environment Cloud9 IDE role assigned to this instance. And basically, that means that our instance is operating in this particular account with the admin permissions right now, and has access to all the AWS services without any restrictions or limitations. And the last step, which we need to do in the Cloud9 IDE, is to install the Boto3 library. To do that, we have to use a pip Python package manager, and we are doing it in the following way. We type in pip3 install and Boto3, basically. That will install Boto3 library for us. The whole process will take a couple of seconds, and now basically we are ready to use Python and Boto3 library to start interacting with AWS services. And that's the exact things which we will cover in the next videos for this course. So if you have any suggestions about the course video or comments as well, please feel free to leave them in the comment section under this video, or in the comment section for every single article in the blog, so that we can improve our course and make it as useful for you as possible. Thank you very much for your attention for now. I wish you good luck with your AWS Cloud journey and the course as well, and see you in the next video.